Hello and welcome to another game review with me, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis, and of course, Nathie. How are you doing on this fine Tuesday morning, mate? How you doing?
I am doing completely fine. Yes,
Yeah.
It's very early. I feel a little sleepy, but I'm ready to
Oh,
go.
you are ready.
Yes.
You've got your power glove on to show the nostalgia, to show the retro gaming vibes.
Yeah, this feels so good, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm ready to beat another game.
So
That's how it feels.
So tell me, did you actually play the game wearing this?
No, that's kind of tricky, but
Okay.
technically you could, right? You could just play Pixel Rift with this power glove. Why not?
That would add another level of immersion to the game because the character in the game actually wears a power glove, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that could be cool.
But we've done a couple of these reviews together now. You guys and girls seem to really enjoy them. So kind of where we discuss the game, review it a little bit. We'd love to know your feedback as well in the comments down below if you've got any questions for us or maybe some feedback on how we can improve this format. I'd love to know your thoughts, so make sure you put them in the comments down below. But of course, today we're going to be talking about Pixel Rift 1989. To give you the basics of this game, Pixel Rift will be releasing on Oculus, Steam VR, and PSVR, and that is today, the 31st of July 2018. On Steam and Oculus and PSVR, it's sort of the same price across the board, so it's $18.99 in British pounds, $24.99 in US dollars. You could pre-order the game on Oculus and get a little bit of a discount, but you know very well that we don't recommend pre-ordering games.
Pre-ordering is a crime.
It really is. It really is. And that's true for all games. Like, we're long gone of the days where, you pre-ordered a game because you were concerned that your local game store would run out of copies. There is an infinite supply of these games. They will never run out, so you don't need to pre-order unless there's a really juicy bonus and you're going to love the game. It's a sequel, for example, maybe then you could, but we wouldn't recommend it. But anyway, to give you a little bit of a synopsis of Pixel Rift, kind of give you an idea of what the game is all about if you've never heard of it before, it's a seated single-player experience that pays homage to the early days of gaming. So you embark on a journey into the screen of a classic video game and beyond. And as the title suggests, it revolves around the gaming scene in the late 80s, 1989 to be precise, and you play as Nicola, who incarnates a Dot, who is a video game character, and the evil Cyblin Master has stolen the Pixel Rift Stone, and it's your job to get it back. So, pretty simple, sort of retro gaming stuff. But yeah, let's sort of get into it, because you sort of are more sort of aware of this game. You've kind of been involved in this game for a long time, right? Like, this game has been in development for like 4 years, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I played it with my DK2.
Yeah.
That's a very, very long time ago.
Yeah.
It was called Pixel Rift back then, not Pixel Rift. They changed the name, but back then there was only a Rift to play with. So I do get it. And funny enough, when I played it yesterday, I finished it, I didn't see that much of a difference. It was almost like going back in time and reliving the past.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool. There was a lot of new stuff as well, but the classroom was always like the basic demo you could download from Oculus Share. It was completely free. Everyone could give it a try. And now just being there again and hearing the music, like it really put a smile on my face. Like I missed this game. I really did.
So it's almost, for you, it's like 2 levels of nostalgia. It's like the level of nostalgia for the early Rift days, and then like the old retro gaming days.
yes, it's this student project, because it was a student project first of all, and not a big company who made this. No, it started off from scratch, very small, and back then I was also starting off. So they were trying to build a development studio, and I was trying to build a review channel, So Yeah, it's funny how time flies.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned that it was a student project, and you're completely right. Like the developer Anna Ribeiro came up with the concept while she was at school, and it was very much a reflection of herself and her own past. You know, she grew up with brothers who were all into gaming, and she would like kind of play games while they were away when, you know, she could use their console, and she like snuck her Game Boy into class and was trying to play it there. So she sort of built a game based on her own previous gaming experience. And then she ended up teaming up with let me just get this right, Arvo Ray, who are a Sao Paulo publishing studio, and they're actually publishing the game on the different platforms. So once she kind of hooked up with them, they kind of helped her to finish the game off, and then we're finally here today on launch day when it's going to be finally released. But like you kind of said, it's kind of like an autobiography almost of Anna's life, you know, and childhood. So it's kind of like an interesting story about its development and how it came to be. But let's talk about the graphics, because we've got kind of two levels here. And to sort of describe it, the game is a game within a game, right? So you've kind of got your retro gaming console, which looks like a Game Boy, but in the game is called a Gear Boy. And that's kind of like got this like small tiny screen, which is black and green, a bit like the original Game Boy screen, right? And then you've got the virtual environment around you, which is kind of a vibrant sort of colorful environment, like, you know, whether you're at school or whether you're at home or these other sort of environments, they all sort of take cues from that era of the 80s. So you've got a very sort of vibrant neon lighting in between the levels and stuff like that. It's a really, really cool way that they kind of mix those two worlds together. Especially like, for example, when you're in the playground in one of the levels, you're kind of shooting some sort of like bats, almost like Duck Hunt style with your Gear Boy, using it as almost like an AR sort of game. It's kind of interesting. But then the pixel art enemies start coming out into the virtual world around you, sort of, and the two worlds kind of start merging. And it's when stuff like that, it just is a really clever mechanic, and really
you are
sort
right.
of,
it's like imagination mixed up with real stuff, where you see pigeons flying around the school, but on your I think it's called a Gear Kit, not a Gear Boy. I'm not completely sure, but if you then look through the screen of the Gear Kit, you can see dragons instead.
Yes.
So you are just imagining everything you see, or maybe not. You know?
Yeah, exactly, and it works so well. You know, that kind of merges of the two worlds. But the the pixel art as well is really well done. You know, if you like sort of old school games, like Shovel Knight, that sort of thing. So it really sort of plays on your sort of nostalgia and your sort of you remembering back of the early days of gaming and how everything was kind of sprite based and pixelated. So it's a real cool mix of the two and fits perfectly for this sort of game. But in terms of controls, like I used the Oculus Rift to play this game, so I don't know what headset you used. You'd use the Rift as well?
Yeah, I used the Rift as well, and I used the gamepad instead of the touch controllers, because I really wanted to go back to that, old school gaming era where I could just smash those buttons. I don't know how it was for you to play it with touch controllers, to be in a retro game and then, have a different feel to it.
Yeah, like, although I played it with the touch controllers, I just kind of played it like a traditional controller game, so the touch controllers are pretty much the same layout as an Xbox controller or something similar. The thumbstick really works really well, and you need the thumbstick desperately in this game because you need to do some really precision jumping and sort of leaping over these sort of canyons and stuff, and you've got to get the timing right. You could never play this with the ones.
It's funny though, it's almost like playing with Joy-Cons.
Yeah,
right?
It is actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the Vive ones. They didn't recommend me playing it with the Vive ones. They said like you really need or the touch controllers, a gamepad, because it's just too hard to play it that way. I think you need to use the touchpad then to walk around
Yeah.
I don't think that is very nice, so I do get it. But yeah, you can still use a Vive and then match that with a gamepad if you want.
Exactly. That's the way I'd recommend you play it. You know, if you're playing on PSVR or Vive, you know, use a gamepad. If you're playing on Rift, use a gamepad or the touch controllers. But yeah, it felt good to play, and you know, in terms of like gaming mechanics, it was like really solid and precise. It felt like, you know, the jumping was really satisfying as well. So yeah, I thought the controls were spot on in that sense. But let's talk about like the sound, because it's kind of, the sound is kind of really what makes this game feel like you're kind of back in that kind of 80s era. You know, the soundtrack is really sort of retro. Everything in the game has got these kind of retro gaming sounds, you know, the way the sort of characters talk to you. And I think it does a fantastic job. I don't know about you, like, because you're a kid of the early 90s, right? So you weren't necessarily a kid of the 80s, but I'm sure you appreciate it being like the chief of the Gunter clan.
Yeah, I'm a 94 kid, so
yeah.
No, but I really appreciated the sounds and also the radio they had, because there is a radio in Pixel Rift that you can listen to, and it plays all kinds of funny tunes from 8-bit ones to just like ones that came from the future. There's even one where someone is just singing like Pixel Rift, yeah, Pixel Rift. I'm like, okay, well that's my jam, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall it felt like an old game, and the cartridges, everything is just flying around you, you know. All the nostalgia is there. It's just it's a trip down memory lane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for you.
Especially for me, and even more so for the fact that all the sort of voice acting of all the kids and the teachers, they're all British accents. So it was like I was actually back
exactly.
at school.
Exactly. Yeah. The headmaster is like the most British person I've ever met in a VR game. I think he was like British mixed with German. Like I thought they were trying to portray a German headmaster on a British school.
Yeah.
I was very confused about that part, but you can tell some more about, I think, the levels you can play in Pixel Rift.
Of course. So in terms of like the levels, you know, you've got 4 levels in total. Each of them have got like a boss fight, and they all sort of take place in different areas. So, you know, you've got the school, and the idea is you have to play your Gear Kid without the teacher noticing that you're playing, right? So, you know, a struggle that most kids, you know, of our era will know very familiarly. You know, the fact that we wanted to keep on playing, but we had to go to school, we had to do our homework, we had to do our chores, and life got in the way. So you have to distract the teacher, and by doing that, you have like a pea shooter, and you have to sort of shoot little sort of pea shooters and trigger things off in the environment around you to distract the teacher long enough that you can continue playing to get to a point where you're kind of safe to stop and then distract her again. Because if you get caught playing it, you've got 3 chances, and then that's it. That's the game over, and you have to start that level again. So it's kind of like an interesting mechanic.
Yeah, you can like decide what you want to shoot, and after a while you will also discover how long it takes before the teacher goes back to her spot. Because if you shoot certain things, it will last longer. So you, for example, have a hamster, and you can shoot his cage, and then he will just run around the class room, and the teacher is trying to catch it. So that takes way longer than, let's say, shoot a book that falls off a shelf. So you need to play it smart, let's say it like that. But yes, you have 4 levels, right? There's the first one that spawns you into a classroom. Then the second one is outside the school.
Yep, in the playground, yep.
And then we have one with the headmaster that I was talking about.
That's right.
And then the I don't want to say more because I don't want to spoiler anyone, but it's totally worth playing past level 3.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's got 4 levels in the game, and it probably took me around sort of 2 to 3 hours to finish it.
Yeah, fairly short. Yeah.
So I don't know how long it roughly took you, similar sort of amount of time?
I died a lot, so I think at least 4 hours.
Okay.
But there are also collectibles you can find. So if you really want to go back and find all the hidden cartridges,
yeah,
then you will, I think play another 30 minutes, maybe an hour. I don't think it takes that long to find them. They are not like extremely hidden, you know, but that will give you a little bit of extra playtime.
Yeah, exactly. I think if you went back to collect all the cartridges, it would probably take around 4 to 5 hours to finish the game. And the cartridges, if you collect them all, you can actually change the skin and the color of your gear kit. So you kind of a little Easter egg there. But the gameplay itself on the actual retro console is kind of like a mix of like the classic games like Ghouls and Goblins, Metroid, Mario. It's even got like a Balloon Kid style stage, and the Balloon Kid for me as a kid is one of the games that I remember having in the early days. I had Mario Land and Balloon Kid before I had Zelda, so I used to play them both quite a lot. So it was really cool to sort of play that old kind of Balloon Kid style level. But yeah, in terms of like the gameplay, that is the gameplay loop. You sort of fight a boss at the end, and I have to say, and like Nathie said, the game is challenging. Like, if you were a kid that used to play these kind of retro games, you'll know that these games were hard as nails. And they've kind of adopted the same level of difficulty in this game to kind of match with the nostalgia and the feeling of being in the 80s, because these games were so hard, and this game is exactly the same thing. It's very difficult.
It's not like the family friendly Nintendo games of like you know, now where you just respawn in a very nice way and you're like, oh, I can just continue playing. No, this one is like, you know, you lose, you start over, and you need to do the whole thing again.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, you know. Spicy difficulty in a VR game that makes you rage. Like, I was raging yesterday. I was like a few times like, why the heck did you do that, Nathie? Why can't you just properly play the game?
Yeah.
And this one is really about patience, you know. You just need to not run around like a madman and then hope for the best. No, you just need to take it easy, just walk instead of run in this retro game, and just see what is up front instead of just going for the surprise.
Yeah.
Because there is so much that can kill you when you are not careful, when you start just running, because I don't know. And there are also, like, I think you should tell that, I don't know if this is like a spoiler thing, but you can actually enter like houses too, right?
Yeah, you can, and you can talk to characters in the houses as well. And they're kind of characters that, again, were sort of part of Anna's life in real life. You know, they're like kids saying she can't do it, or like, you know, you have to do your homework, you need to go outside, you know, play with some real kids or whatever. So it's kind of interesting. But it's funny because there are some other hidden things in this game as well, and you're actually in this game, right?
Yeah, I am in the freaking game. Like, my actual room is in the title. Like, you can see my wallpaper, and you see me like standing there saying my famous quotes, and those quotes are from my gameplay of Pixel Rift. So you might be like, hey, these quotes are kind of outdated. That's because it's 4 years ago.
And it features some other people as well. Like, from what I've heard, like PSVR Frank is in the game. I can't remember finding him, but I did see Caleb from Reality Check VR at the very end of the game. And I also did spot someone else. Like, at the very sort of after end credits, you can like walk into some different rooms, see developers and stuff. And there is actually Stephanie from the SciTech team in this game as well, because she helped out with the 3D modeling. So it's kind of interesting to find another character that I'd met in real life. I was like, hey, I know that person. So that was kind of a cool little feature as well. But in terms of sort of challenge, I would say that like the end boss, you know, not to give any spoilers away, but like it probably took me maybe 30 to 40 minutes just to fight the end boss alone. It is so challenging, and it's kind of one of those things. Like, it's been a long time since I played a game that was so challenging. And I like to go back every now and again and play some retro games. And even yesterday I was playing the Virtual Boy on the Oculus Go. And I really like playing emulators and old school games. So playing this was kind of another sort of trip down memory lane, like you said, and a sort of real sort of got me in the nostalgia feels, put it that way. So let's talk about the conclusion of the game and sort of wrap this one up a little bit. And I think the one thing that this game does really well above everything else is the fact of giving you that nostalgia, giving you the feeling of being a kid again, being at school, really wanting to play games but having to deal with real life and having to avoid real life interfering with your gameplay. And I think it does a really great job of doing that. And it kind of made me think about some really sort of funny old school sort of gaming stories. And I wondered if you had any that you want to sort of share, but I'll tell you sort of one that I had. Yeah, and I remember when I got Zelda Link's Awakening on the Game Boy for the first time. We were just heading out on this long road trip and I was in the back of the car and I probably played it for about 2 hours, and then when I stopped playing, you kind of get that thing where, because you've been moving in a car so long and you haven't really been paying attention to the fact that you're moving, I felt so sick for the rest of the journey. I literally wanted to throw up. It was like the worst motion sickness ever. Like the only time it's been as bad is when I started playing with the Rift DK1, like playing Half-Life, and that kind of killed me as well. But I felt sick as a dog the whole journey. We had 2 more hours to go as well, so kind of reminded me of that kind of funny old school gaming memories, you know.
But it did always feel like a time travel, because you were just staring at the screen and before you knew it, you already arrived at your destination.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
Like, gotta go fast. But I never got sick in a car, but I was playing a lot of games on my Game Boy and my Game Boy Advance as well. And it's kind of cool that you first had to get like a light that was shining on the screen, because if you went into a tunnel, you had to kind of like keep playing. So you had the light to turn on, you know. And then later you got like the Game Boy Color, you know, and all the more advanced ones. Like the Game Boy Advance for me was like the first time I could actually see what I was playing, you know. Yeah. Well, with the Game Boy itself, I was like, oh no, like I'm now in this end boss, and then I was just pausing it, waiting until, like, you know, we went back into the light again. So I mean that's something I can remember. It's yeah.
that should be a future level in a future Pixel Rip game. You know, you have to play it in the dark with a torch or in a car.
Dude,
you know?
like playing this game in a car.
Yeah.
Or like a train or something. I think that could be kind of fun. But as you said, there are like more Pixel Rip games coming, right?
Yeah, they are. Apparently, in a recent interview, Anna stated that there's going to be like a series of these games coming in the future. So this was like Pixel Rip 1989, and they're thinking about doing other ones. So like 1978, Atari sort of era, 1983 sort of arcade era, 1995 Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era, and then 1999 sort of Mario 64 era. So they've kind of got a lineup of games that they also want to continue with the series of Pixel Ripped. She did say that they may use different characters in the future, you know, male characters maybe, because obviously, you know, Dot is the female lead in this one. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if there more Pixel Rip games come out in the future.
Can we have a Pixel Rip Mike edition with Cuphead difficulty, please?
Oh man, Cuphead, don't even get me started on that game.
And that you can pair your Joy-Cons with this, you know? Yeah. Like, that would be... I think that is kind of like fun to do, is hook up one of your Super Nintendo or Nintendo Entertainment System controller to your PC. You know, you have like USB ones, right?
Yeah.
Or Bluetooth ones. If you can pair them with Pixel Ripped, I think that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You're in the world and you feel like you're touching the world as well. That would be next level.
Wow, that sounds like very poetic.
Yeah, it does. But in terms of like recommendation, I would say that, you know, this is a good game. I would totally recommend going and check it out.
That's solid.
It's short but sweet, you know. Like I said, it's probably got sort of 3 to 4 hours worth of gameplay in there. Especially if you go back and collect all the cartridges, you'll get more out of it. But I just really like it for its art style, the fact that it kind of makes you feel like that nostalgia, you know, the trip down memory lane. Being an old school gamer, that's really, really cool. I really enjoyed that. The art style, the music, everything about it worked really well. And you know, I just completely blasted it in one playthrough. I just couldn't stop playing it until I finished it, and that's a good testament to game design.
It is addicting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, if you've got a PSVR, you've got an Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, or even a Windows Mixed Reality headset, you can enjoy this one. It comes out today, the 31st of July 2018, so go and check it out for yourself. But this is one that totally, I would say, you know, I'd recommend you go and check out. And certainly, if I had to give it a score, I would sort of give it maybe sort of, you know, 7.5, 8 out of 10. That's kind of my recommendation for this one.
7.5 or
7.5.
I think an 8, yeah, an 8 is fair.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun. Good job, you know, well done. And for 4 years of development, not bad at all.
Yeah, especially because like most of that time Anna was doing it by herself. It was only really in the last leg that she got the help to finish the game off. So you've really got to give her credit for that. She's done an amazing job
from
there.
Student project to an actual development studio.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So there we have it. That is our review of Pixel Rift. So I hope you guys and girls enjoyed this one. I'd love to know your thoughts about this game if you've checked it out in the comments down below. And also if you've got any funny retro gaming stories like my one, almost thrown up in the back of my parents' car. I'd love to know in the comments down below. If you like this format, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to both of our channels. And you never know, you might see us again on another review in the very near future. So until then, have a good one and bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
See you later.